With this tool, you'll never need to make shims again. Over 12,000 of you watched my shim making video, and the comments started flooding in and the messages started coming in hot. People want to know how I built this. So today I'm going to show you how to build your own with some scrap wood and in under 15 minutes, and you'll never have to buy a pack of cheap shims again. You will need one 2x6 that is 16 inches long, one 2x4 at 6 inches long, one piece of 3/4 inch plywood at 9 inches by 4.5 inches, and one piece of 3/4 inch plywood by 1 inch by 2 inch. You'll also need 3 short screws anywhere from 1 5/8 to 1.5 inches, and you'll need 3 long screws 2.5 inches to 3 inches. Your very first step is to get a flat side on your 2x6. This will be your final dimension. On my side, I took off one end to make it square and flat, cut across, and now I'm at 5 inches total. Important note, try to pick a 2x6 that is relatively flat already. You don't want it to do a bunch of wiggling. You can see here mine is racked a little bit, but it won't impact. Same thing with the 2x4. Make one side flat. That way it'll sit nicely on your tool. Alternatively, you can also put a little corner rounded edge on this 2x4 because this will be your handle if you don't want the sharp end sticking into you. Now we're ready to start to assemble some of this. First thing we're going to do is take a little bit of glue, and we're going to glue on this 1x2 block at the long side here, and just get all of your edges to be nice and flush. Ooh. That was my fault. Should look something like this. This is a little stop block that'll keep your 2x4 or 2x8 when you're making shims from flying back at you. So glue this up first, let it sit, because we've got something else to do. While that top plate is gluing up, now we need to make the actual cut that creates the shim. So with your board, you're going to measure down 8 inches, and you're going to measure in 5/16. I'm cutting the 2 here. Now you'll take a straight edge and you'll draw a line from absolute 0 on the corner to your mark. Now we need to cut this little piece out here. That's what will actually make your shims. You can use a bandsaw, you can use a jigsaw, you can use a circular saw, you can even use a handsaw. All you have to do is cut out that little triangle piece. Don't worry if it's not perfect. It doesn't need to be perfect. You can see I've got a little lump there. Take some 80 grit, sand or smooth. And that's it. Okay, glue is dry. The notch is cut. We're ready to assemble this whole thing and we can start making shims. Take your top plate with your backer block, set it on. Important note here, make sure that this is completely flush with your notch. I am not, so I'm going to move it back just about a 1/16. Next up, we're going to pre-drill and countersink. You can glue this piece on. I figured I would just screw it on in case I ever have to build another one. Now, I had already checked, but just make sure that you are square across the board here, using a speed square, framing square. You don't want this one piece to be out of whack. This point should have something that looks like this. It's totally flush there, you have a notch, and you have a top plate. Now let's get the handle on, and we'll be done. So I like my handle slightly offset back. What I've done is I've placed my handle where I want it to be, and then I've scribed a line all the way around it. And this way, I don't have to measure underneath. I'm now going to take a different bit, and I'm just going to drill through the top so that I can see where to drill the countersink on the bottom. There's one, there's two, there's three. Now, I would recommend gluing on your handle just so that it's a little bit more secure. You're not relying on just screws alone. Just like that, you now have a shim maker. Let's go see how it works. We've got this all assembled, and now we're ready to make some shims. So let me show you how to set this up on your table saw. The first step is to set your fence to the distance that you cut your board at. In this case, -5 inches. So we're going to set our fence to 5 inches first. Next up, you're going to take your 8-inch scrap block of wood, and you're going to slide that right on inside. Next up, turn on your saw, and let's make some shims. Okay, that's a little thin there. So see how that's almost too paper thin? So what we'll do is we'll move the fence back just by about a 32nd. Take your block again, flip it around, and run it back through. And look at that. Down to 0 on one side, 5/16 on the other. So now that we have our fence set up, we'll take this shim here, we'll glue it on top, and we'll write what to set the fence at. And that's how you make a shim maker. So that wraps up this build. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, post them below, and we'll see you next time.